the fourth installment of Salaam Fandom ASDCC. I am your host, Dr. Shmita Mitchell, Associate Professor of English with the State University of New York. I launched Salaam Fandom around 2017 at New York Comic Con, and alhamdulillah, we have had the opportunity to have Salaam Fandom panels at C2E2, for those of you in the Midwest. We also had Salaam Fandom at the Comic Con in Algiers back in 2019. And we also had Salaam Fandom at MCM London, and that was in 2024?
Yes.
It's 2024. Yeah. So we have expanded our reach in different time zones. This edition of Salaam Fandom is Anime, Manga, and Islam. And on that note, we're going to get started talking about who our panelists are and what we have to say about gender. Hopefully, as long as that Mario so right. Hopefully, how many of you know what I'm talking about with gender? Okay, so we got lots to talk about. All right, so we're going to go just get right into it. I am going to give a very brief introduction for our panelists. We've got Jasmine Joestar, gamer extraordinaire, cosplayer extraordinaire. We have Toby Youssef, who is, are you an identical twin?
I'm a
I'm always like, this is twin wife. And you are a
She's a doctor.
Oh, I'm a doctor.
I'm the software engineer.
We have the Dr. Cosplayer, Toby, who's also with Religious Nerdy. And then we have Awesome Adam, Pokemon Dungeon Master. Is that what
No, just Pokemon Master.
Oh, sorry. Pokemon Master extraordinaire.
Sure.
Don't you think Pokemon Dungeon Master?
That would be cool.
Let's trade on that today. And then we have Lollipop Cosplayer Extraordinaire. This is our panel. We also have Mazi from Def Jam Recordings. He landed last night. He is somewhere in the building, probably trying to find this. I had to come all the way from the other side of the building, and apparently there is a Marvel panel that is crowding up.
Behind us.
That's one of the reasons why I was like, excuse me, pardon me, for the past 20 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us for this installment. One of the things that I found to be most important about Salaam Fandom is to center Muslim creatives and then also talk about how we are embedded within the pop culture narrative, whether it's work that we are putting out there or whether it's things that are being discussed about the community, right? And so with that, I have the slideshow going, but we are going to jump directly into the anime manga conversation. There will be some time for Q&A, and hopefully folks have something to say about all the ways that anime, manga, and Islam intersect, because I've been seeing some things. Have you been seeing some things? I've been seeing some things. So the first question, the professor and me, I am going to ask you is, how many of you are aware of what's happening with anime, manga in the quote Muslim worlds? So one of the things that also got my interest is that compared to regular US comics like Spider-Man and all of that, if you are in Saudi Arabia, if you are in Algeria, if you are in Indonesia, if you are in Malaysia, if you are in the Philippines, the one thing that they all go really hard for is anime.
Yes.
They go harder for it than the folks in Japan. It is wild, and they have gotten very creative with their cosplay. Oh, wait. We got, yeah, you know he's so rap like Hollywood. We got Ozzy in the building. And got in like 10 o'clock last night?
Huh?
You got in like 10 o'clock last night?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you still on Eastern time. And by the time you leave, when do you fly back? Allegedly?
What?
What time do you fly back allegedly?
It's a long one.
Oh. And this is his first San Diego Comic Con. We gotta give it around. Now the panel is complete. We fall like Voltron. So as I was saying, one of the things I found to be most profound is the way that anime and manga have managed to transcend when it comes to what we consider like the Muslim world, right? We know there's not just one Muslim world, right? So whether you're talking Bangladesh, whether you're talking Pakistan, whether you're talking, like I said, with Saudi, Bahrain, I have seen anime and manga be more visible and like celebrated in regions that people would say, oh, you know, don't they know about Spider-Man? I'm like, they checking for Naruto. They ain't checking for this. Like, you know, for whatever reason, I don't know how, and I love Cobra, right? Cobra's amazing. Your shirt? Oh, come on, yeah, see? You know what I mean? Like, I love it. But for whatever reason, anime and manga resonates in a very unique way that I think is really special. I think it also says something about the creativity that is allowed in anime and manga that also speaks to the creativity that the Deen allows for those of you who are Muslim, right? Like I think that there is this flexibility that, you know, people may not want to talk about. But there is something about the way that these worlds intersect. And so when I'm meeting up with folks who are geeking out and making their own comics, and they're in Indonesia, and they're in Malaysia, and they're in the Philippines, and they're in Bahrain, and they're developing games in Saudi, and they're doing their stuff over in Algiers, in Egypt. One of the biggest Comic Cons that you can go to is in Algeria. And most people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, no, like the government officials show up, and we took lots of pictures because the embassy flew me out back in 2019 to talk about Salaam Fandom, and they were like, we didn't know y'all like this. And I was saying, yes, we do. And they were like, well, we gotta show you all the things we do. So what we're gonna get a chance to have a conversation about are all the ways that the bridges connect. We'll get to talk about Jadugar, and we'll get a chance to talk about a couple of other anime series that are, I think you might appreciate, Arabish, right? They're a little Arabish, a little Asian-ish. The way that they portray like maybe desert societies or Bedouin societies, but still very much so in an anime manga context. I'm speaking specifically about One Piece and also Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah, we gotta talk about Israel just for a quick second. So, what drew you into anime and manga? Just give us a quick origin story, whoever, because I think I'm the triple OG on the panel, because I've been anime manga since the early 80s. Am I older than everybody? How old are you, Marcy? Yeah, he's ageless. Okay, so maybe Mozzie and I are close contemporaries, but I'm 49. So yeah, I'll be 50 in November. So yeah, it's my homegirl for a reason. That's me. So one of the things is back in the day, you could only get access to anime and manga on 42nd Street. And my father was in the music business. That's not how I met Mozzie. But he was in the music business, and all the recording studios were in Times Square. So he used to pick up all this stuff from, there was like a place where you could get martial arts films. Anybody from New York? Like old school New York? So you might know, like down in Times Square, you could go and get the Kung Fu movies, and you could get the Japanese comic books or whatever. And so my father would grab them for us, and then his friends, when they would be on tour or whatever, they would grab stuff. So we were like into it like from 1980, 1981 on. And it was not accessible then. The translations were terrible, but that was the beginning of like it taking hold in the United States. I would say probably around then, because they also couldn't market to kids. So they used the anime to promote their video games and their toys. That was like the origin story. But then it became a thing on its own where they said, we're gonna start marketing it in mass. So then by the time we get to the 90s, a lot of people started picking up on Sailor Moon and all of that. But in the 80s, it really was if you didn't have a manga and an anime, you couldn't sell your toys. So this was the way that they did it. So on that note, tell us your origin story with anime and manga. Anybody, dive in first.
Oh, that's me on the screen. So back in 2020, the COVID was happening. So online, we had to make a lot of friends online, and I met some fellow Black Muslims, women, and we created Village Nigeri and talked about anime, spirituality, and anime and manga, and we started a podcast and everything. And since then, I've been cosplaying more and also going to conventions. And one of the pictures you see over there is that I interviewed the dub voice actor of Fearing. Yeah, that was great. It was a great experience. And everyone knows Fearing Beyond Journey's End. Yes.
Is that photo?
Yes.
That's the photo
yeah.
here.
That's great. So yeah, feel free to check us out, villagenerdy.com. You see all our interviews, our podcasts and blogs and everything.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? We're going on to a story. What's playtime?
We can go, Adam and I grew up together, that's my cousin.
I forgot about
Resemblance. Growing up pretty humble, you know, we watched whatever was on TV. And I think like for me, my parents as like a special treat, they would get me the Pokemon VHS tapes, which was like 3 episodes of Pokemon, followed by one of the songs, like Poke Rap or whatever it is. So that was my introduction, was whatever was on Saturday morning cartoons. So
Oh yes, Saturday morning cartoon.
Sailor Moon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and it wasn't until I was way, way older that I realized we were getting a very different, censored version of anime. Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot darker than it is, Pokemon is a lot darker than it is, and I think that's my villain origin story.
Yeah.
Oh my god, who's that?
Troublemakers. The Wonder Twins. So who's next?
It's Adam.
Okay. Hey everyone. So I actually have a weird way that I started watching anime. So when I lived in Jordan, when I was pretty young, they would actually. So I found this out. It was on Space Tune, and basically it was Arabic dubbed anime. And I thought when I was little that they made a lot of those shows there. And I would hear like, you know, I would watch like Detective Conan, and he would go, "Ya Allah."
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy, you know. But to come to find out, like Captain Tsubasa was Captain Magic. They had like case closed, you know, Detective Conan, Captain Conan. So it's like, and that's why I got introduced to anime. It was like Arabic and English at the same time, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon growing up, and Dragon Ball, obviously. So that's how I kind of started my anime journey, basically.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Yeah, so I also watched Pokemon, Digimon, Sailor Moon, you know, all of those growing up, but I stopped watching animated stuff, just going to school and not having time to watch cartoons, as my parents call it. But in 2019, I had surgery and I was home for 6 weeks recovering from surgery. So I gave myself like a homework assignment, which was to finally learn what anime is, because like everybody was into it and I just did not understand what it was. So I was like, okay, everybody give me your lists, what am I supposed to watch? And I compared all the lists and I was like, okay, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood seems like it only has 20 episodes. That seems good. It's not 20 episodes. It was like 200 episodes and it got me like really stressed out that I wasn't gonna finish this anime like before my sick leave was over. So I watched it every day like it was my job. 8 hours every day, and it was so serious. Yeah, and that's how.
Hey, coming up for your recovery, did you dive into the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood?
Brotherhood.
Oh, okay, because you know there's two.
Yes, I watched Brotherhood. People told me, yeah, watch Brotherhood, that's the one to watch. I did not watch the other one. I was so scarred. I'm still scarred actually. And like refreshing myself for this panel, I was like, oh my god, not that
You
show.
forgot the Vortex.
Yes.
Crunchyroll's taking all my money. So Mozzie.
So I go back to the 42nd Street
Yeah.
thing as well. With the Kung Fu movies, we used to buy them 3 for $20
Something like
and
that.
sell them for like $20 each. It started off as a hustle. if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but back then it was called Japanimation.
It was Japanimation.
So Voltron was my first one. That's considered. But I'm not talking about the lines. I'm talking about the cars. The spaceship called Voltron.
Yeah.
It was like 50 of them made Voltron.
Yeah.
So that, and then the lines. So that was 42nd Street, and then As a Hustle, and then Voltron later is what got me.
What's funny about 42nd Street is that historically it was the red light district. And so children are not supposed to be down here buying toys and comic books.
Especially not cutting school and going.
Oh, yeah. There's that part. So one of the things that becomes really interesting with 42nd Street today, which my late father, referred to as Disneyland. He's like, what is this? Because there used to be everything that's not for children down there, but the best toys would be down there, right? And so that was the spot.
And fake IDs.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think that's it. When we think about how anime and manga have become this multi-billion-dollar industry, it is wild now that everyone's like, oh yeah, I do manga, right? It's like, excuse me, you just woke up yesterday to like one particular issue of One Piece, and now all of a sudden, I love Chopper, right? But there is, and I'm not a gatekeeper, right? I'm like, you get in whenever you get in, right? Like, welcome to the party. That's what I tell the new folks. I'm like, welcome to the party. But it is interesting how it was like this really deep subculture that you had to like, do you know, Fist of North Star, like, and then everybody else is like, what are they talking about? These weird, it's like this weird, they don't know. And that is where I think you have all these entryways for creativity, but also for fandom celebration, right? Because if it stayed like this very niche kind of thing, it wouldn't be as accessible, and definitely I don't think the content would be as interesting. Because now you've got the video games, right, based on the manga, based on the anime, and all of them are feeding each other. And sometimes if like the game does well, then that's more money for them to pay the mangaka to do another volume, right? Well, after they said it was over. You know what I'm talking about. It's over, we're done. And then they're like, oh no, you sold $500,000. We need another story. You need a story, right? Or you give us something like a special edition. And that's what happened, I think, when we saw the Demon Slayer. The film did so well, right? The film did extraordinarily well, better than they predicted for US markets, that it has now changed what the terrain is for the series in terms of publication, the game offshoots, all the things.
And other anime too, so you see other movies getting into movie theaters.
Yeah.
I think in the last couple of months we saw Gundam, Bleach, Cosmic Blood War.
Right.
So there's more anime movies coming into the movie theater, and I'm hearing from other friends that aren't into anime because they see so many friends. I'm all for making anime mainstream. Like, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, Michael B. Jordan did a collaboration with Naruto Coach, and so like as a grown woman, Hot Topic can only carry me so far. You know what I mean? So, a little classy, a little subtle, and that Coach line was fire.
Yeah.
So I love it being mainstream because we would have never gotten that in a million years. If it wasn't for celebrity, and so many celebrities are into anime.
Megan Thee Stallion,
right?
Megan Thee
Stallion,
right? And so there are, but then you have people like, oh, are they really? They're just following the trend. And I'm like, excuse me, we can't. Like, I say, get it where you fit in. So when we look at Jadugar, a witch in Mongolia, which, as one particular headline says, I'm going to read it to you. Jadugar, a witch in Mongolia, about a Muslim girl who was enslaved during the Mongol invasion. She navigates the 13th century Mongol court. Dun, dun, dun. Now, she's supposed to be said, okay, so how many, where am I Jadugar? Like, I know we're up to episode 5, right? Because it just dropped earlier this month. Huh?
It dropped this month.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think it's like up to episode 4. Right? Yeah. Like, it's still relatively
Like one
new.
comes out today.
They've been running the trailer for months. And people weren't really sure, like, what to expect other than, like, okay, it's supposed to be about, like, Mongolia, and we'll see how that goes. And And then when you saw the first opening episode, right, and you hear the Adhan, that's a whole different feeling, y'all. I said, what is going on here? Now, it's supposed to be set in what I
Do you
believe.
want to tell the people what Adhan means? Not everyone. might
Oh,
know
that's
what
true.
it
The
is.
Adhan, the call to prayer, right? And so it's set up in the village time, like the marketplace, and you see this girl like running away, and you know, for the sake of not spoiling, you start hearing the call to prayer, and then it's like, what's going on here? The artwork is, I would say, stunning, right? It's different from what we would see in like the quote standard kind of anime manga style. The illustrations are really vivid. The books are already out, right? The volumes are translated in a variety of language. You can find them on Amazon. Supposedly it's fairly consistent, but then there's also the issue of it's kind of historical, but then is it exactly historical? I don't know that watching Jadugar is going to teach you everything you need to know about Genghis Khan and the Mongolian. I don't think it's going to do that. I think it's kind of a pathway, right? But isn't it supposed to be set like in what I think the opening scene says it's like in what would be like Iran today?
Yeah,
Iran.
Persia or something like that.
That was like Ottoman.
Now,
Like the cat.
Mazi, you are Iranian. What was your take on their representation or
What the
reasons?
word Jadugar means witch.
Yeah,
Witchcraft.
witchcraft.
Witchcraft, yeah, it's witchcraft, yeah.
So, do you think that based on the way they drew the costumes and the
No, I like it.
You
I
liked
like-
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I didn't dive into it.
Right, no,
fully.
it's only like 4 episodes.
Yeah, so what? No, I like that it was because you're saying it's loosely based, so
Okay.
so I like that it covers. I don't know anything anime wise or anything cartoon wise, anything that covers the Mongol
Right.
Empire
In that way.
taking over the Middle East, which they did, and then they ended up becoming Muslim themselves. So it's like, yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
So here you can see the 2 book covers. As she evolves and grows, they change the illustration in terms of the character design for her. But the lettering, I think even like the embroidery in the tapestry, the way it looks on the edges, this is what the book covers look like for the manga. And I think it's very thoughtful, but I'm also curious about how it's portraying Islam, right? Because there is slavery, we know this, right? There are gender issues, we know this. But then also it's telling a story from her perspective. And so to center it as like it's a Muslim girl in the Mongolian court. And then people aren't really clear on like what that means with Genghis Khan. I mean, it kind of humanizes Genghis a little bit. What do you think? Do you think he's supposed to be like the ultimate villain? Or?
I think it's really interesting because, like, I was reading the manga, and it took me way too long to understand that you have to read the manga right to left. Yes, you open it up, and I would get a page, but I would start reading the panels left to right, and I was like, this is like out of order. I'm sleep deprived. But I think it's like really interesting how like they just immediately start going into like first wife, second wife, whatever, and it's like normal. Like that was the marital structure back then, and you know where they were, where they're going. They're like, oh, you know, you could be a slave or a companion, and a wife, and the second wife, or a wife in every city, and whatever. And but it wasn't like I like that the writing wasn't apologetic or explanatory. You know, it's just like you're immersed in the culture, like reading the manga. So I really like that.
Yeah, I appreciated that. There were conversations, interior conversations that don't need the kind of like subtitle caption on trying to clarify what's happening to whom, and then also in terms of the combat issue, like the border, however we calling this invasion, you know, I think that's historically who we label as villains, who we label as heroes. The fact that she's labeled as a witch, but really she's not practicing like witchcraft. She's just like literate, and it was like math and science, right?
Which,
As an engineer, I will take that title.
Well, I mean, what about the scene where the astrolabe, right? Like he's holding. I mean, these are things that are part of.
No, that was so great. That's such a great example. I'm glad you brought that up. Where they're talking about like, oh, did you notice this at this time or this time of day? Was somebody around at this time? And she was like, oh, well, the way the light was falling into like the yurt or whatever the tent, and she's like using the tent, or the people were using the tent as a sundial. You know, like that was so great. Like, yeah, it just like you just go into it and like really incorporating all these like really complex things that we're not realizing as like consumers as a manga, for example.
And that's, I think, the STEM aspect of it, right? Because people have started talking more about the way Islam and STEM are connected. Anybody?
Yes.
STEM fields, as I'm in the humanities.
I think it's very interesting because a lot of people, they see Islam as whatever the media is telling you, and I'm not going to get into that, but what I will tell you is that Islam is notoriously known in the science community to be very forward-thinking. There's a lot of things that were written in the Quran, including humans learning how to fly, which to anybody reading before the invention of flight, they'd be, that's crazy. And then now that we do fly, it's possible. So there's so much science, and there's a lot of mysticism, actually, as well. Islam does believe in spiritual things such as goats, witches, and so to see this and to see, it's not this monolith idea of what Muslims look like. This is an ancient history. This is also Central Asia, which you never really see highlighted with Islam. Everyone thinks Middle Eastern Muslim, like, you know, almost synonymous, which for the most part it is, but it's not accurate. To see Central Asia being highlighted, Mongolia, China, Russia, those countries in the middle that nobody really hears from, it's an amazing representation. And speaking of representation, I don't know if you guys paid attention, but this is actively being dubbed, which means it's in English. And the voice actors that they chose were all perfect picks. They were all Middle Eastern or Muslim voice actors, and there's so many incredibly talented voice actors. I was so happy to see that they got the message through and through.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in terms of what's happening in Iran today, we will leave that. But this is a different presentation of Iran, wouldn't you say? You think maybe this might soften people's perspectives on the humanity?
I mean, their perspective should be soft on it anyway.
It should be.
Unless they're paying attention to mainstream media. Then you all twist it. But
yeah. One of the things that I found to be very interesting about manga and anime is that compared to like Western comics, people will read a manga or watch an anime and then they want to go and visit that place, right? And so because it is set in a place that is real-ish, right? I'm curious, that effect, is it going to compel people to do more Central Asian study, do more 13th century, Iranian history, do more Mongolian, Chinese, Muslim history? Because that is something, I don't know if you know manga anime, like, especially, I don't want to say otaku, but I would say otaku, that they, like, when they do deep dives, like, they wind up going, like, all the way to the bottom of the ocean. And I appreciate that because the writing is so good that it allows for those kinds of pathways that we don't often get with like Spider-Man, right? Like we just don't get it. And it's not for the lack of writing, I think it's for the lack of vision that the publishers have to make it that people want to, be out in Queens, hanging out, right? Be out in the Queens. So
listen,
yeah.
there's a Californian on this panel who took a photo of Manhattan and said she was in Queens. So I'm not gonna say who she is. But I think you bring up such a good point because now we look at American tourism in Japan.
Yeah.
Because of the permit manga.
Oh,
and
yeah.
literature, right? And even Muslims, like we don't even understand our like Islamic history, like the way the Islamic scholarship went from the Middle East to Central Asia, to the Samarkandiya, right? And all the scholars that were there, like our Islamic knowledge went to Central Asia, went to South Asia, they came back to the Middle East, and that was like the preservation of all of our hadith or scholarly sayings and oral traditions that were passed down. And I think it's beginning even before this manga was published, or maybe it's like, a resurgence of it, because now there's like vacation tours or whatever to Uzbekistan, right?
Yeah.
Where all the
Yeah.
scholars came from, where all the scholars studied, and I think that's like such a beautiful like happenstance. And like this is not an accident, right? Like
Right.
we're like learning our like heritage as like descendants of scholars, right? And there's so much history that not that we've lost, we just haven't paid attention to, and now like I think this let me say comic manga is an example of that, you know. So I think that's great.
And like the sister said that earlier, that it's so concentrated when it comes to Islam, Middle East, which is yes, but also to your point, a lot of the Hadith scholars, poets,
Right.
Yeah.
warriors, they came from Central Asia.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
It's kind of this like
It's time.
discovery of new, what was old was new, is old is new
Yes.
again.
Yes.
And it's like, did you know that these people were there? I think it's also for folks who are from those regions that maybe don't know or are missing part of that foundation to get more curious about how these peoples came together and what proliferated. Now, the gaming world allows for that, right? You go Pokemon all over the world.
Yeah.
So when people are chasing Pikachu,
Yeah.
right? Do you see a difference in how the fandom is when you are outside the U.S. versus inside the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, like, they just had, like, Pokemon Go open up in, like, Saudi Arabia, like, a couple of years ago, so that was crazy, so that was, like, a new thing, but, yeah, it's like, I know, it's, like, one thing that you can see is, like, the diversity between Muslims, too. It's, like, anywhere you go in the world, you know, it's, like, we're all, like, the same stuff.
Yeah,
It's common.
because because then it's like, do you speak Pokemon? Because
Yeah,
if you do,
yeah,
then we
exactly,
can
yeah.
hang out.
Exactly.
You may not speak the same
Yeah.
other language, but we speak Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Saudi, Ishbal, Full Metal Alchemist, right? We have one of the, I'll say Arabish societies, would you say that, right? It's like this desert Bedouin society. Some spell it Ishbal, but then in other, I think in Brotherhood, it's Ishbal, and then in the regular it's Ishbal. But it's the same place, same people, same illustrations. So there's the souk, you have the architecture where they're like in the middle of the mountains, and of course, war. So the Ishbal massacre is supposed to be one of the most compelling moments. They are not labeled as Muslim, but they sure got the outfit going, right? And their names are just as Arabish as you can imagine, which is also part of what makes it interesting. They're all a bit darker, you know? And they're very good. She's got a hijab on. Then, you know, the politics of like, you know, what's happening politically, geopolitically, that there would be a war, but yet this was a compelling moment for the story. How many of you remember the Ishbal story arc? Did you find yourself seeing it very parallel to like contemporary geopolitics? Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, is art imitating life or is life imitating art? Because this is over 20 years old, right? Like this is not a new series, but yet it's still speaking to the same issue. Then we have Altair, Record of Battles, which is supposed to be based on Turkey.
Oh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Turkish. And we've got falconing, we've got more geopolitical drama, but this one is more political intrigue. And so it's the young Sultan, and it's called a Pasha, right? And he's the Pasha. And so it's training him, and his name is Mahmud. And Mahmud has a friend, and her name is Shara. And Shara could very well be from another very closely aligned region with the way she wears niqab sometimes. She is also a belly dancer, and she is also like an intelligence operative. But it's him and his friends and his falcon that are out learning about diplomacy and cultural exchange. There is a scene, you can't, I mean, once upon a time it was on Amazon and you could watch the whole thing. It has been pulled, And so you can get the manga, but you can't find it, I kid you not, anywhere. You can't find, maybe you can find some scenes uploaded on YouTube, but it's really hard to, I can't even find the DVD. I can't even find it. And he actually makes a lot in one of the episodes when he comes back. Yeah, and I said, huh? Like how do we, what? I mean, his name is Mahmoud, right? And so I said, okay, I'll tear. And the artwork is beautiful. That is like a minaret behind him where he has the falcon. I do raise a flag that like a lot of them are blonde. Like that, it's like, okay. But they are these different regions and different, costuming kind of things. So when you see him here, like if I could zoom in, you would see like the sword and the different weaponry that he has, and of course this giant turban. And all of these things to kind of give the aesthetic. So Altair, I don't know why they've taken it out, but if you get a chance to check it out, you will not be disappointed, because it is an epic series about how geopolitically Turkey was connected to, Turkey was connected to these other regions and how borders were being expanded. So when we look at Alabasta from One Piece, right, it's a different kind of presentation because they gave a lot more lifeblood, I think, to Alabasta. How many of you remember the Alabasta story? So it's another desert society, right? We've got minarets. I think that's a pyramid. I mean, they threw it all in there. They were like, we're gonna make sure that people kind of know. Did anybody pick up on all the different kind of Arabish ways?
It's got a nickname for a reason. Alabasta is often called Arabasta because of all the Arabic.
Now the costuming, I think, was very interesting. We see fezzes, we see turbans, we see different kinds of headscarves, we see tunics and thobes, but the architecture. Look at that, that could be Al-Aqsa.
It could be Araba.
And then of course, what is the key factor of happens in Al-Aqsa?
The kingdom.
There's a kingdom, there's a monarchy, and there's war.
Yeah.
Why can't we just have peace, y'all? We said Salaam Fandom, right? Salaam. So the whole peace factor. What is the whole thing about connecting these worlds with conflict? Is that a cliche that has been overdone?
I don't think it's been overdone. I think it's still being done. I mean, look at Dune. I think that's...
Oh, that was our panel 2 years ago, right?
Dune, Star Wars. I mean, the first trilogy was shot in Tunisia, which is a Muslim country.
Yep.
But not everything is... There's a lot of great Muslim representation too in anime. One of my favorite animes is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you have part 3, Stardust Crusaders, which is the best part, my favorite part. And there's a Egyptian character named Muhammad Abdul, and he is a beast. And you see him reincarnate. Okay, this is a spoiler. Sorry. You see him come back in another part after the world resets. Another spoiler. Sorry, I never seen but I think he's such a. So when people are like, oh, where's Muslims in anime? I was like, we're there, and
we're there.
We're not only there. Like when you're saying the Middle East, I don't know if you guys remember. Like a year or 2 ago, they announced there's gonna be a brand new Dragon Ball park, inspired park, and it's gonna be in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, so you're not far off at all. Like and then as Adam was saying too, like anime in Arabic is actually pretty good. Not gonna lie. When I was watching the World Cup, it was either in Spanish or Arabic because just the amount of emotion in the acting is fantastic. Yeah.
I want to go back to another great work. It's called The Journey. Ever heard of The Journey?
Yeah.
It's based on the story of the elephant, and they animated it, right?
Literally.
Yes. And I would recommend it, even though it is fighting and war, but it's a really nice representation of the kid at that time. And you see the hero's journey as well in that as well. So, another great work, I would say, is a manga called A Bride's Story. Everyone heard of The Bride's Story? So also takes place in Central Asia, and it's about some certain brides in that area, and a lot of them are from Muslim backgrounds, and a lot of them, you see a lot of great kid stories. There's like hijabi representation. There's also, you also see like a Muslim wedding in a manga, you really see that. You also see how meat is slaughtered and like the halal way. You see this and that in the manga. I was like, that's so cool to see someone say this and that in the manga. I don't know. So yeah, so I also wanna, you should check that out as well if you ever want to see good representation. That's not just war.
It's not just drama.
That's not just drama.
So one of the things that I found to be interesting with just the few titles that I cherry picked is when you look at the architecture, right? It's all like the traditional and kind of stuff, the things that people often think about, like deserts and mountains and the clay buildings and things. And so for the series that I am happy to announce that has just dropped, my series, Harlem Galaxy, it's coming in print, I think, next month, inshallah, because it was part of a Kickstarter. And this is the setting of, let's see if it's going to, so this is it on the right. So on the right, that is the actual world that my story is set in. And so they are New York type vibes. Well, that's Earth in the sky. So they're somewhere. And I worked with a team in Canada to put the cover art together. So chapter 1 is dropping again by the end of the summer. But it's the Apollo, it's 125th Street, along with the Cuchitritos, because my parents are from East Harlem, El Barrio. But then, you are looking up at another planet, and then there's another planet beyond that. And so this is the world of the primary characters in mind, and everybody's Muslim, right? And so it's a little interesting because I didn't want to move them like out of the realm of reality. Like they're still like the first chapter is in Central Park. It's just Central Park with like aliens and them and other stuff going on. But Harlem Galaxy. So while I think it's cool that, we do appreciate the traditional architecture or whatever, I'm all about what's happening tomorrow, right? Like, what are we doing? Muslim futurism was our panel last year, remember? So when I think about the future, I think about the wide range of possibilities that we have, and I think that anime and manga allow that more than Western comics. So my first question is, why do you think anime and manga are so appealing to Muslim fans? My second question is, can anime and manga be a viable pathway for Muslim stories? And then Islam, inclusivity, and creativity. So for the last batch of minutes that we have, feel free to chime in on what you think are some possibilities.
Oh, like why they're like we feel so. I think a big detail like Muslims and anime and manga stuff like that is like passion, right? Like when you're Muslim, like you feel truly passionate, like reading like anything from the Quran or anything or any surahs or anything like that. And I think the same thing with like
so
manga and anime.
scripture in the Quran.
Yeah, and so like when you read things, it's like I think it's a passion that we align ourselves with. It's like we know this is our faith, but also at the same time, like these are really cool stories to read and see and like resonate on what your values are within the characters that you read about. And I think that's why we have like that connectiveness between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, to build on that, I think something that Muslims and anime like stories that share in common, like lore-wise, is justice and a very strong sense of justice. Like every anime seems to have like this underlying thing, and they're trying to expose something or save the world or whatever. And like justice for us is such a central like part of our faith, and like righting wrongs and like constantly like that is so critical. So like I think that like you recognize that so like when you're watching anime, you're like, oh, this feels familiar because like fighting for what's good or the underdog or whatever is like really important to us. Like I think that we should all share that, right? As a commonality. So that's what I see in terms of overlap. Okay.
Somebody else? Can anime and manga be a viable pathway for Muslim stories?
I can say that I feel like if it comes to anime versus animation and Western animation, they have more freedom to do what you want. I think you can tell more type of stories. You don't have to go through all these. I feel like there's so many more barriers here. I don't know, but I feel like you can in the anime you can show more violence. You can show more diversity
And range of character experiences too.
Yeah.
Things that are happening in U.S. comics market, like having a queer character or having a mixed race character. Anime manga been doing that like 30 years, right? Like having a character that's disabled. You know, how many eye patches are there in anime manga? Like, come on, like somebody's blind, somebody else away, like, come to the territory. But in Western comics, it seems to be like, you know, you have to be a certain way, it has to stick to that, and there's not much flexibility. And so I think that's part of why it may be as appealing. And never mind the isekai stuff, right? Because the world of fantasy and escape, where you get to be reborn or reincarnated, right? Now, I low-key, high-key, I would have said, oh, Hindus are gonna love that, right? Because that's pretty much essential to Hindu lore, right? It's reincarnation. But instead, like, isekai, you got folks saying like, oh no, we're gonna, you know, be born again in a new society that is better, and I can still like keep all. I think that'll be like really dope. And I don't know if people are motivated by, you know, other kinds of story options. But I would say if you got a story idea, before you think that Marvel and DC might pick it up, you might be able to hustle over to Kodansha or Viz, and they might say, thank you very much. Nobody got home, right? Like, I think that is a marketplace for them because they're constantly expanding, and you know, at the end of the day, people want to make sales, right? And if they know there's a market for it, and Jadugar is doing so well. Final note about Islamic inclusivity and creativity. The two are not oppositional, right? Like the creativity and world of imagination in manga and Islam. It's a fandom just like the Beat is a fandom, right? So then bringing them together, what are some of the cosplay ideas that you think are really interesting? Toby.
That's all they are.
Well, I like to say, when my first cosplay was Miss Marvel. I love that. And even though there's not a lot of Black Muslims in representation at all, so I feel like they just need to make stories if you don't see it, might as well just make a story. And my older sister here, she is creating an animated series.
What's the name?
And if that comes out, I definitely do cosplay for her.
I have the sticker.
Yes. So you saw the sticker?
Layla and the Starship Afrotopia.
Yeah, that'd be a great cosplay for you.
Any final thoughts from our panel before we open up? I think we have time for one. Do we have time for one or two questions? No? One? Oh, this time. Okay. Well, I am in aisle 900, and I'm also in aisle 1800. If you are near Tokyo Pop, just keep walking towards the back, and you'll see me on the right. I'm with Ray Comics. I'm an editor, and then also Women in Comics. I'm an editor. So you can find me on either place. Anybody, what do you have going on?
You guys can follow me on social media. I'm Jasmine Joestar. I'm a content creator, and I have a podcast I host called The Grand Line Diaries. It's a journey of watching One Piece together. It's 4 girls on that journey, so please give us a follow.
Follow me on @TobyChan.
Yeah, put it up.
Also religiously nerdy as well, and I cosplay, blog about anime that I enjoy, and I also interview like voice actors and such. So yeah.
Okay.
You guys can follow me on socials at Awesome Adam.
It's right there.
Oh, awesome. You're great. We also want to video games, Pokemon especially. And also, I just want to say on the note, if you guys have any Muslim friends, you can ask some questions about that. Don't ever be shy. You can ask me questions if you want to.
And then Lollipop is here.
Yes, that's me. Lollipop. I make cosplays, try to incorporate Muslim culture, Bengali culture, and if you like interesting takes from a New Yorker, please feel free to follow me on Lollipop.
And Mazi, who's leaving tomorrow morning.
Who's that?
You leave tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, leave smoke. Yeah, follow me, please. People all around the world. I might be in Kenya one day, Greece another, Bahrain the other. Like literally, I just bounce around the globe.
Yeah.
Um,
So thank you very much for being able to squeeze me into your schedule, because I know it's a lot.
Well, we're here. So yeah, I work deep in the hip hop field and philanthropy together, music and philanthropy around the world. So follow me, talk to me, DM me, talk to me after this. We're all nice people, right?
Yes, we are. We're wonderful. And on that note, thank you very much for another round of Salaam Fandom. We're going to take a quick break before we kick it out.